reminded, because we know the end of the story. Most of us know that Saul started out pretty good. He had some issues, but not bad. It says in our story today that he was called by God, he was anointed by God, chosen by God, had the Spirit of God upon him. But then we also know the end of Saul's life, when Saul turned out badly, started choosing to do things that God disapproved of. We're told in our story today that he was given a copy of the instructions that he was supposed to follow, but then he did not follow them. He chose to go his own way, and his life ended badly. As a parent, I have worries, and I know you have worries about your children. I was reading a survey of Christian parents here, and it said that something like 15% of us worry about our kids' academic achievement. A little higher number in the 20s worried about whether or not their spouse would marry someone good, someone that they approved of. A little higher number in the 30s said that they worried about their teenagers' choice of friends, who they were hanging out with, who they were being with. And a still higher number worried about whether their kids were going to do drugs or abuse all kinds of substances. But 56% of the people who were polled, Christian parents who were polled, said that they were worried about whether their children would continue on in the faith. 56% of us were worried about whether our children were going to continue to follow in after Christ. And as a dad, I think I have some great kids. But, that worries me too. Will they continue to follow after God? Will they continue to serve the Lord? My question is my fear. This is my desire, is that they continue to follow the Lord all the days of their lives. And I look at Saul and I wonder, what went wrong there? And how can I avoid these kinds of mistakes? That's one application I think that we can draw from this. I'm not sure it's the main one, and as we go through the passage, we probably should look for the main application that we have here. This story starts off talking about Kish. Just like the story of Samuel started talking about his dad, Elkanah, so this story, we are introduced to Saul by talking about his dad. And we're told that there are 4 generations, there lists 4 generations here in 1 Samuel chapter 9, just like Samuel had 4 generations of his family mentioned. Just like we're told that Samuel's dad was a godly man who went up to the tabernacle every year to offer sacrifices, we are told that Kish was a man of standing. I like that phrase. It's not exactly a literal translation. It's actually probably more mighty and powerful and big and mean and strong. But in the NIV it says he was a man of standing in his community. I think that's an interesting start to understanding where Saul is going to go. Because Samuel's dad, we are told, is godly, while Saul's dad, we are told, is a man of standing. That may not mean that he isn't godly, but if that's the emphasis, that may be a hint as to where we're going. As dads, we don't need to necessarily be worried about our standing in the community. It's nice to have that. It's nice to have a good reputation. It's nice to have a job. It's nice to be influential. It's nice to be able to provide. But what we really want to pass on to our kids is godliness. And so we need to know that we are godly, and I think that will influence our children to go a long way to being godly. It's not a guarantee. There aren't any guarantees. Everybody gets to choose who they're going to follow. But I think that's an ominous start to our story. He had a son whose name was Saul, an impressive young man without equal among the Israelites, a head taller than any of the others. Now, this is the first time in this story that we're told that Saul is a head taller than every other person. The only leaders, the only people in the Bible where it talks about that they are tall people are Israel's enemies. Everybody else, nobody else is ever talked about as far as their height goes, but Israel's enemies are Goliath was a giant. And here Saul is a giant among his friends. A giant among his people. He stood a head taller than all of them. God had said that he was going to give them a king. They had asked for a king like all the other nations. And he was answering that prayer. And God is going to keep his promise in these chapters. It starts off with Saul out in the field taking care of his father's donkeys. You know, the kings of Israel were often called shepherds, and the kings of the surrounding nations were often called shepherds. Shepherds were supposed to take care of the flocks, of the animals, of the herds, of their fathers or their masters or their own. This is what a shepherd did, and a king was a shepherd. Well, here we find out that Saul is a bad shepherd. He's lost his donkeys. You know, they've wandered off. He doesn't know where they are. He was incompetent right here at the beginning. It's not a very auspicious start to this story. It starts off with him right away being a bad shepherd. And it says that he wandered all over the countryside looking for these donkeys. He can't find them. He's nowhere to go. And he finally gives up on the thing. He says, you know, we got to go home or my dad's going to think that we're lost. And we're gone too. So we better go home. Well, his servant then suggests, well, hey, we're just down the road from Ramah. Let's go ask Samuel. He's a man of God where these donkeys are. Maybe he can help us. God knows everything. Maybe he can help us. Well, Saul goes, who? He lives 5 miles from Samuel, who was the greatest man of God of his age, who was judge over all of Israel, who went on a huge circuit so that everybody in Israel knew him. And Saul was so spiritually blind, so spiritually ignorant, he did not recognize Samuel's name. He didn't know that there was a man of God just down the road. But his servant did. Another ominous sign about Saul's beginning. And so his servant, and he'd go down the road. Well, but then Saul goes, wait a minute. Oh no, we can't go down to talk to the man of God because I don't have any money. After all, you come to church, you better have money. Everybody needs to nod. Everybody needs to nod, yes, that's the truth. You know, whenever you go talk to the preacher and ask him to pay, you know, or ask him to pray, you got to pay. You know, that's just the way it is. You wouldn't give somebody else's money? He was wanting to pay me out of somebody else's checkbook. But you know, Saul's going, he understood that everything type. Whoa. What's the potatoes they're worried about? Keep going. Oh, you want some? All right. All right. And so Samuel prepares Saul for the kingship. Oh, there's my parental worries. I wonder if I got the statistics right. Oh, there's 1. There's 2. There we go. Saul looks for Kish, 4th generation. There we go. Man of standing. It's good. Review is good, isn't it? Oh, wait. Oh, you got it. Oh, wait. Head taller. Look at this picture. This is Yao Ming, who's a basketball player standing next to his coach. He's just slightly taller than him. Keep going.